Thank goodness, with a day as miserable as I have had, my camera doesn't want to hook up to my computer, our website's having issues. It's so great to have Chiruru. Chiruru was the focus of episode 6 of Sabikui Bisco, and I've been looking forward to this, especially since the last episode literally had none of her in it, and I was like, I hope they don't put it. They're technically sidelining her in, which I really don't like. Like, just leave her in the party. The moment they were all three on the crab, I'm like, this is what we need. Because I don't necessarily think that Bisco and Milo have a great chemistry. But what I feel like they're going to end up doing is having it be a Milo and Bisco are always together, but then we'll throw in Chiruru and we'll throw in Pau every now and then to mix up chemistry. And I don't know if I necessarily like that, because I think that Chiruru adds a little bit of extra element to the mix. Because obviously, Bisco is very driven. He's he's smart and rough, but at the same time, he's clueless about certain things. Milo's smart, but at the same time, too kind. And I think Chiruru kind of adds that element of deception, but for self-preservation. And that's definitely what they really hit on with this episode. Is it's kind of sad because they don't really show anything. They just really had her explain her situation, which is really the idea of somebody living on the outside. They had to do anything and everything to survive. Whereas Bisco had strength to survive, Chiruru had to use wits, deception, but also her own self just to survive. She kind of indicates the idea that I had to do anything and everything, things that you two children would never imagine I had to do to survive. And that was the willingness that she had to do that in order for self-preservation. But the sad thing that we're getting with the picture here was after they find her and she's frozen, like she was growling. She's frozen and growling in this ice cube. When they bring her into this little cave and they start talking to her, she points out the fact that she's done all this stuff. She had to do everything to survive. And she's frustrated because they're looking down upon her because she used deception. She's like, well, you have such bad karma. The reason why she got this helicopter and it crashed when she was on her way to Miyagi is because of her bad karma. She brought this upon herself. And the sad thing that we have here is where she's like, no, look, I would do anything to survive. But sadly, because she's seen such bad failures over and over again, I'm assuming with this whole situation with her losing her plane, working with Kurokawa, the worm thing, the wrecking, the big crab thing, the wrecking of the helicopter, she feels like she's got such bad luck right now that is a sign that she should just give up. She's saying, stop saving me because I might as well die. She's finally given up. After all this time of all these lies and deception that she's done, she's finally giving up. And it's really sucky because I like Chiruru and I don't want her to give up on life. But that was cool. I think with the focus on this, the last encounter we had, it was technically a lot of Milo, saving her life, and then her kind of obviously indicating to him that, we can go together somewhere. And she always dismissed Bisco, but it really felt like at this moment, Bisco was her attention at that point. He burns her forehead and she gets all mad. And he's like, nobody would bark that much if they've given up. You obviously have a spark in there to survive, and this throws her off. Like, leave me alone. The tsundere, I'm not paying attention to you. I'm paying attention to me, though, which was really, really cute. I really did like that scene because that was a connection that they established. But yeah, this moves on to them all traveling together, constantly arguing between Bisco and Chiruru, and obviously at some point the crab just throws them off. But eventually they come to some Shimobuki traders. Now this is also another interesting point because it established at this point that out in the opens, the traders themselves don't care about this money they used in their homelands. It's a different world out there. It's about trade. Nobody cares about little metal discs. They care about things that will help them survive. So when they're talking about trading for goods, they want actual assets, things that they can use rather than just fake coinage, fake currencies that they have no use for. Maybe also indicating that these people don't really necessarily trade with cities and towns because obviously they would need that currency at that point. But yeah, Chiruru kind of manipulates the guy and says, you can help him now and then you can swindle him later. I did the same thing and I'm a trader, and this apparently, I don't know how, but it talks them into doing it. But they get a lot of comfortable stuff that they can work with. But also a book. Now, I kind of feel like it was very vague what they were explaining with this whole situation. The thing they threw at these trading posts threw in with the cloaks and everything else they got was this book. And as Milo is looking through this later on, he's noting the fact that each of these things is indicated by a shroom. And I don't know if they were, what I'm getting they were implying here, because like I said, it felt very vague what they were doing here, because they were talking about how there was all these beasts and these different mushroom keepers would draw them. And so there was different art style for each of these beasts that were being categorized in this system, but they were all indicated by a mushroom. And I thought the mushroom was like a signature, but they specifically found one that had the rust eater, and it was this big, huge tube worm. And so I went from that being like a signature to it being, oh, so this book just basically says where you can get shrooms from. And each of these different monsters or beasts can have one of these shrooms. And this worm is one that has the rust eater. So at least now they have a target, and yeah, conveniently enough, they run into it. But again, another little insight moment for Chidori as they find this train and they're trying to get to work, and it takes currency. And she's like, look, get out of the way. I'll fix this. I know how to get in here. I used to be a mechanic in one of my previous, well, they said it was a job, but it was actually her having forced labor that she actually did. And it paid well, but she talked about how they had to end up working inside of this excavated part of Tetsugen, and this Matsuba manufacturing company was very obsessed with getting in there, and the rest spread, and then she decided to flee. And following this, Bisco and Milo talking about, their desire to help people, Jabi, desire to help Pawu, and the fact that they're going to do it, they're going to be successful. And that's when Chidori comes in and kind of asks, why do you care so much about other people? Like, why are you willing to do so much for other people? And he's like, well, maybe it's because I love her. And something like, because I'm not very cunning. I'm not sure what that part would be about. I guess just being very single-minded, I guess. And yeah, that follows them going through this tunnel, being attacked by these slime things. Milo being very uncomfortable with shooting and hitting a gigantic squid thing with a gigantic engine in it. I'm not sure why we chucked the engine into it. I guess the only remaining forms of transportation we want to destroy. Like, that train is valuable. Why do we have to destroy it? But sure enough. But yeah, with Bisco's help, he manages to hit this gigantic engine within this gigantic squid that he's afraid he's going to miss. And gets out of there. And then, yeah, sure enough, bird flies and grabs the squid. And then this big snake worm thing appears and takes out the bird. And then, yeah, Pawu randomly shows up. So I'm sure we'll get an explanation of how Pawu just manages to be here, of all places, where they're going. But I don't know. At least Pawu's joined the group, I guess, even though we just lost Chidori. It was cute, though, when they were leaving Chidori, how obviously very conflicted she was. She doesn't want to get close to people, obviously. She's mentioned that. I don't want to get close to people. There's no benefit to it, and this whole give and take thing only leads you to have to help people when you shouldn't. So she's very set on the idea that I can't get involved with people, and yet she's obviously having a conflict here. They finally got her to give her name, and now she's got this connection with them that she really doesn't want to break. I almost expected her to jump on a train and say, look, I really do need to go that way anyways, humph, but yeah, again, sadly, I'm sure she'd probably follow them through the trail system. But yeah, really solid episode. Really did enjoy it. Again, really hitting on a lot on Chidori. Obviously, again, really upset that she's not following them. Again, hopefully she's just following them, but she's very tsundere, so it's gonna take a bit for them to kind of break her. But I do enjoy the fact they keep kind of slipping her in. She is turning out to be one of my favorite characters of the show. Very, very multidimensional that we can kind of get into, as opposed to somebody like Bisco and Milo, which we really haven't seen too much of besides Good Boy and Rough Boy. But yeah, that's my thoughts on episode 6 of Sabikui Bisco. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like down below, comment, let me know what you thought of the episode, subscribe if you haven't already, share this video if you can, support us on Patreon, or throw a tips link in the description below. Definitely appreciate everybody that does, and y'all take care.